everybody. I'm Tom Vessel.
I'm Joey Evans.
I'm Camilla Joey.
I'm Z Garcia.
And today we're talking about Thunder Road Vendetta, which is a reprint of an older game from Restoration Games. That's what they do. They take old games. The old game of this had a scrolling board where you would actually rotate like a scroll.
Really?
Yeah.
So I have played this. Up until this moment, I did not. I remember that.
That like conveyor belt kind of?
Yeah.
Like, oh, that's interesting.
Oh, wow.
Ooh, I like that.
This is essentially Mad Max, the board game.
Okay.
Well, you want to know how it plays? You don't have to play the older one. It doesn't matter. I never did. I knew what it was.
Me neither, yeah.
But Z's going to show us how to play the new one.
All right, I can do that. Here we're taking a look at a game already in progress with 3 players. We have orange, blue, and green. Their vehicles are on the track. They are already racing. The objective of the game is, of course, to win, and you do that in one of 2 ways. By making it to the end line, which only shows up at the back here when someone is eliminated. Then we will place this out, and if you cross this line with one of your vehicles, you win. Or if everyone else's vehicles are eliminated, you're the only one with any active vehicles, then you also win. You're the only one left racing. So I'm going to take you through what a round looks like. And a round is made up of 3 turns. A turn is going to have 4 different steps to it. All right. So at the beginning of a round, everyone is going to roll their dice. And the start player also rolls this die here for a possible bonus movement. So we're going to say green is the first player. They roll their dice. They create their pool. Every other player is doing the same thing like this. And now we are ready to go with the first turn. And again, 3 turns around. So on your turn, 4 steps. The first step is assigning dice. Second step is the command step, which might or might not happen, depending on where you put a die. The third step is moving, and the fourth step, which also might or might not happen, is going to be shooting at someone in front of you. So step 1, assign. You have 3 vehicles, small, medium, and large, and you've also got this command grid over here. So assigning involves adding a die to a vehicle that you have not assigned a die to yet, and then if you want to, once for the entire round, so once across those 3 turns, is putting a die over here in one of these. The requirements are listed there. This can take any die if you want to do the airstrike, but if you want to do nitro, it has to be a 1, a 2, or a 3. If you want to repair a vehicle, it has to be a 6, and then drifting is 3 to 5. So you could do that, all right? So you first do this, and then you may do that. Let's say this player is not activating their command die yet. We go to the second step, command. Well, I didn't activate a command this turn, so I don't do that. And then the third step is moving. I put a 5 on the small vehicle, so I am going to move 5 places, all right? The small green vehicle is this vehicle right here, and every place you move through is going to count as 1, except for muddy spaces. To enter that, it costs 2. So this player could go very easily 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They could do that. It's very straightforward. You can also, every time it's your turn to go, you can move into any of the 3 spaces in front of your arc. So they could do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 if they want to. If you end up with another vehicle, so same idea, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you're going to put your vehicle on top of theirs, and then you slam into them. When you slam into them, you're going to roll the slam die and the direction die. This one shows you which vehicle gets slammed, and this shows you where it gets slammed, with the center being where you currently are, the ticks around it being where you get shoved into. So, perhaps they'll do that. They're going to roll these dice. There we go. And this shows you that it's the bottom vehicle, which the die favors, by the way. And then this shows you where they get shoved into. Great. So we're slamming the blue car into this space over here. Now, if these 2 vehicles, they both happen to be small, but if one of them was a larger vehicle than the other, that player may choose to ask for a re-roll on both of these dice. And that could be either the one who is jumping in there and creating the slam, or the other vehicle that was there. So that's a slam there. Once you are done doing that, then you may shoot. If, for example, this slam had instead moved this vehicle in front of me, and in front is once again any of these 3 spaces, well, they now can be shot. And I would roll the shooting die, which is this one right here. Based on what I get, they get shot. If you do shoot and hit, then that player is going to take one of these tiles. They're going to flip it. They're going to deal with what it does. In this case, that vehicle is going to blast off, and you roll some dice to determine where it ends up, if it takes any more damage. And then you flip it and assign it to that vehicle, like so. As soon as a vehicle has 2 of these damage tokens, that vehicle becomes incapacitated, basically. And you are going to turn it backwards on the track to denote that. You're not out of the race yet, but you are not operational. And you could fix it with your repair ability, taking off one of these 2 damage tokens that would be there, and turning your vehicle back right side up, turning yourself around. You're good to go again, all right? So that's how slamming and how damage works. You'll notice there are these hazard tokens on the board, and if you enter one of those, you must flip it and you must deal with that thing. In fact, there's already one over here that was flipped over earlier in the race. This one turns that space into a muddy space. The 4 different things on here are airstrike. You put out your chopper somewhere that's empty. You could do that, for example. And then your chopper is going to shoot. It works the same way as you would with a vehicle. You roll the die, you see if you shoot, picking something in your front arc. The choppers also do something else while they're just sitting out there. If anybody ends on the space with the chopper, they are eliminated. That vehicle is taking off, even if it's your own, so you want to be careful about that. And then you would move it again next time you activate airstrike. You can just pick it up and move it anywhere else you want to. Put it there, shoot in front of you. Nitro over here, which can be up to a 3, is going to give your car an extra boost of movement. So if I put a 5 there and a 3 here, I'm actually moving 8 spaces with that vehicle, all right? If I do repair, I will repair one of my tokens, like I showed you already. It has to be with a 6. And then drifting over here is going to ignore the first time you would run into somebody and have to slam them. Taking a quick look at some of the tiles you might encounter in the game, you've got here tiles that turn a spot where they're into asphalt, maybe a muddy spot, or maybe an oil slick, which has you slide somewhere randomly and then continue moving. And then you've also got a wreck, which is going to put a plastic car wreck on the board, and you have to slam it. And then also a mine, and if you step into that, boom, it blows up. You take 1 damage, and you, well, it might knock you out if it's the second one. And then some of these damage tokens, you might have shrapnel that has a piece of your car flying off in a random direction, possibly hit somebody else. You've got dazed, which has you rolling the numbered die and then randomly sort of dazed and confused moving around the board. You've got skid here that just moves you in that direction, and there's a set of these for different locations. You've got blast off that has you rolling both of these dies and just blasting off in that direction that many spaces. Or you might get lucky and just get a dent, which is still 1 damage to your car, but it doesn't have any other secondary effects. Whenever a vehicle goes forward enough that they would clear this board and step into the nothingness over here, there's a couple of tiles sitting out. You're going to put the next tile there in front of it, and if you have any movement left, you keep on moving. Any vehicles on the absolute last tile, the beginning of the race, if there's anybody still here, you're really lagging. But you're eliminated also. Those vehicles are done. And then you're going to take this tile, you're going to flip it over, and put it on the bottom of this stack right here. These are all double-sided. So you're going to, this track will basically continue moving if that continues happening. But don't forget, as soon as one player's vehicles are all gone, all 3 other vehicles are gone, then the race is going to be over very soon. So everything I've shown you here is the basic edition of the game, but I want to give you a look at the Chrome edition and everything that comes in that version of the Thunder Road Vendetta box. So this shows you here everything that comes in that Ultimate box. Again, this is the Chrome edition of the game. So you're getting everything I've shown you is up here. You're getting those tracks, you're getting the 4 different colors, their tokens, their dice, all of that stuff, the choppers, what have you. And then there's all of this stuff, these expansions at the bottom, which again are included in this core box, the Chrome edition box. So we got here, Big Rig and the Final 5 is going to give you 2 new vehicle types that you can choose to be. One of them being the Big Rig, is a truck with 2 attachments behind it. And then the Final 5 is 5 small bikes that you can use as well. They each have their chopper, they have their dice, but they're going to behave a little bit differently than 3 cars. We've got the extra ammo expansion, has small decks of cards, which are little variants you can choose to throw in. We've got Carnage at Devil's Run over here, gives you more tiles. They have new things printed on them, like the acid over here, fire. And so you can have a vehicle catch on fire, and you roll the fire die. You have new abilities. You have new cards that you'll be contending with, okay? So more variety there. You've got then over here, the Chop Shop here gives you characters that are going to replace your board. This board here, you would replace this with one of these characters, with a board that looks similar to it on the bottom, but that their character on top, and the different abilities printed on them would be unique to that character. They still all have an airstrike, and they still all have a repair. The other two are generally different, okay? And then you've also got these cards that are going to modify the vehicles. Each of your 3 vehicles would have a special ability that you can utilize whenever that vehicle moves or does whatever it does. And then over here we've got one exclusive crew leader, just another one of these that happens to be in this box. And down here, German Engineering is an optional expansion that allows you to not use the dice, but instead use a deck of cards which removes the randomness of the dice. You have a deck of cards with the numbers printed. You'll draw from there. You will assign those, and it just evens out the curve of having to roll dice. So you have a reliable bell curve that you can count on if you choose to go that way. So there you go. Again, that's the Chrome edition. That's none of those things that I show you in the overview. I showed you all of these things. I should mention, though, that these vehicles that you saw me using do have a wash on them, and these are not going to be washed in the standard edition of the game. So you did see one thing, I suppose, that you shouldn't see in the normal version of the game, the normal basic introductory mode. So there you go, everybody. That's it. Let's go ahead and go back up top.
As we go through this review, from my perspective, my rating and everything's going to be reflecting this giant box here.
Maximum Chrome edition.
I think I would have fun with the original. I never even played the one without the extra stuff, but I know what the extra stuff is, and I would not want to not play with it.
Yes.
So my rating is going to reflect that. And I'll just start out by saying I really love this game. It's so thematic.
So
I think it's
good.
also important to note that you can play right out of the box with the extra stuff.
Yeah.
You know, it does add some additional rules, that kind of stuff, but it doesn't make it so complex that you need a different base starting point.
I agree.
You know?
Yeah.
And you can buy expansions. Like the main one for me is the extra, the special abilities, like the Who You Are.
Yeah,
Yes,
I
very
love
much so,
that
yes.
stuff.
Yeah, I believe these expansions, as of right now, us making this, these are not available on their own, but I believe they will be coming out on their own, though not all at once.
Okay. Is the helicopter in this too? Or
The
no?
helicopter's
Yes.
in it no
They are.
matter what.
Okay,
Yes,
all right.
correct.
That's interesting.
This is like playing with toys as a kid. Like if I had my cars going down and the helicopter's shooting, and it has such a very light feel to it.
It's kind of, and I don't mean this to be negative whatsoever, I really don't, but it's the like personification of dumb fun.
Right.
It is. This is. I like Gaslands. Have you guys played Gaslands where it's
That's using like Hot Wheel cars.
Hot Wheel
putting
cars,
guns
Mad
on 'em.
Max, you move around, you shoot each other.
Right.
I think I like the idea of Gaslands more than the reality because there's a lot of fiddly rules. You got to measure
Right.
out how far you can shoot and all this. It takes an hour to set up. So I like the idea of Gaslands. When I play it, if I see it sitting up there, I'll jump into it, but it never hits a table, although I bought it. This gives me everything I feel out of that in just setting it down and going to town. And like, it's the rules teach us quick, and then you just say, we're going to figure this out. And it's just, it's a blast,
Yeah, it's definitely very light-hearted fun.
Right.
You know, and I think I like that because in a lot of games I don't like that direct player confrontation when you're just, you're trying to do something, contract fulfillment or something like that, and someone comes in and just messes your plan up. That really bothers me. But this game, it works because it is so lighthearted, and the whole purpose of the game, yes, the end goal is to race to the end, but the purpose is to take each other out.
Yes.
In the
Right.
same way of like King of Tokyo. You know that going into it. You know that
Yep.
you're going to be blowing people up. You know that it's lucky. You know that it's just light-hearted fun. And because of that, it really works. It doesn't feel mean or punishing or one person targeting another person. It's just a light-hearted, fun game.
Right, it's like that's par for the course. That's
Yeah.
why you're playing the game.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be like being upset that you played Agricola and you have to place workers.
That's
No, that's why you're playing.
Right.
You're blowing each other up. It's a roll and move with a lot of luck. It's also really stinking fun and
So-
thematic and like, oh, look at what I did. You know what I
Right.
mean? There's a lot of that.
And I think because you have 3 different cars with different abilities or powers or specialties, kind of. One is harder to hit, one is faster, that kind of stuff. Because you have that, it doesn't feel as bad when one of your cars is taken out. Maybe Tom feels differently because in one of our playthroughs it got taken out pretty quick.
You got
Well, no, but that's the thing. I agree with that. So when it's just you and you're dead out of the game, you're like, oh. But when it's 3 cars and you blow one up, you're
Right.
like, well, now
Sacrifice.
the other 2
That's
have
fine.
to try harder.
Right, and you
Yeah.
get that draft and that kind of stuff. And I like the
Yeah.
fact that if anyone is ever taken out completely, their last car is gone. That's an end game trigger.
Yes.
So it does have
Right.
player elimination,
Right.
but it's so quick to the end of the game that, again, it doesn't feel bad. It's more like, oh, man, all right, I got last place. Okay, now I'm rooting for so-and-so, something like that,
Yeah, absolutely.
It's almost like it's the epitome of it's just a game, which you always say to everything. But this winning is secondary to what the stories that happen as you get there. Because there's one point where I was here, and then I think Chris was here, then people were all around. And if you hit someone, they're going to get propelled somewhere. I could have went around on there, but instead I thought, you know what? I'm going to go into him and see what happens because there are 5 cars that could be hit. I'm like, and I ended up dying, but I took a lot of them out with me. And it was just fantastic. That's the type of thing that you go for on this. I mean, I don't know who won the game. I do, but I don't talk about it. But
And I like what you said there, the stories that are built,
Yes.
because in that situation, too, you might hurt yourself.
Right.
You're one of those cars
You
that can
probably
get
will.
thrown. And then you're like, oh, my gosh, I threw myself into a wall, and now I, kamikazed.
Yes.
And so it is really bounces
Yeah.
really well on that
Yes.
that luck works for you and sometimes against you, which leads to a fun experience and good story.
right.
yeah.
It's not really a race game.
No.
There's
no.
racing, and yes, the first person there wins, but you're going to hit each other. You're going to fight. Like sometimes I've played a lot of games, and you can attest to this. They've tried to make this game over the past 20 years several times.
Yeah. Mhm.
Where like, oh, move around, shoot other cars, and always those games end up being race games. And sometimes you interact with each other, but sometimes you don't. In this one, they did it in such a nice way that you are going to fight each other the whole way.
Yes.
Even when half the
You can't
cars are
avoid it.
blown and flaming wrecks, and I can't see a game happening where it's not the case. You're still fighting each other. And
Yeah.
so if you're someone who's sitting there going, well, you could play it either way. We could just race or we could shoot. If you're just there to race, there's like 100 other games.
Don't do this
No,
one.
I agree.
It is a personal
Yeah.
goal of mine, though, to reveal a new tile so that somebody falls off the back. I do want to play a game
Yes.
where I do play
Yes.
with this. I just want someone to fall off that back.
It's fun,
And I think
absolutely.
I've not had that happen yet. I've not seen it
Yes.
happen. I want that to happen.
If you
Yeah.
really book it forward, you and reveal the next tower, you could eliminate somebody. It's possible.
Yes.
But if
That's
you get
cool. That's
Yeah.
if
fun.
you get too far ahead, somebody send that chopper at you.
Oh, you're going to be the target of everything.
Absolutely. You're
That's the
getting rocket
problem.
choppers
Yeah.
on you.
That's so great.
Right,
You're like,
yeah.
you know what? Here
Right.
it comes.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
good.
Yeah.
Also, I love the component quality.
Yes.
Very well done. Race Racing Games has just done an amazing job in component quality. Honestly, for me, it's hard to find anything really negative to say about this,
No.
other than I just know it's not going to be some people's style of game.
And I don't want to play this game all the time either. It's the kind of game that when I'm in the mood for this, I don't know how else to put it. This is a roll and move, old school game with some modern ideas. When someone's eliminated, game is almost over. Like there's some dice manipulation. There's some modern things in there, But it's old school roll and move and
So
blow
good,
people
though.
up, man.
Yeah.
When I'm in the mood for that, I can't think of something else like this. Everything
Yeah.
else pales and actually feels old. This doesn't.
It's
Right.
interesting that it feels old, even though this is an older game.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, that's interesting.
Well, what would you rate it?
I'm going to come in at a 9. I really had an absolute dumb blast with this. It's just good fun, man. Yes, playing without some of these things, bring that down. If I'm teaching it, I'm probably okay to teach without those things, honestly. Because it's going to take a little bit for folks to get used to just sort of the general cadence of the game, okay? But so it takes a little bit of a hit for me because of the lack of a character and the lack of special abilities and all that stuff that I went over on the sheet here. But it's just good fun. If I want to play this kind of game, I think I'm going to reliably have an absolute blast doing what the game promises to give me and delivers on.
What about you?
I'm going to come in at an 8.5 on this one. And it takes a little bit of a ding for me because I don't think I like it at all the player counts. It says for 2 to 5, and I think at 2, there's just not enough going on. And I think at 5, there are some tiles that are just so too tight. You know, like there's one specifically that's like a tunnel, and it can really bog the game down. So I think that at certain player counts, it takes quite a bit of ding. But that being said, when you have it at that right player count, it is just absolutely a blast. I love the individual nature. You feel so strong with your character abilities. You know, you're like, everybody is so broken that it works. You know, and I love that feeling. I like that you can play it, like I said in the beginning, out of the box. You can play with those special abilities, which are going to be expansions and stuff like that. You can teach a new player how to play right out, you know, with those. And I think that it just really shines. And like you said before, it's just dumb fun, and that's a positive thing.
Yeah. For me, this is I'm between two numbers here, but the simplicity of this, be able to just sit there and run and just play it, and also player abilities like they have a clown where you kind of more bounce off of him. It's stuff like that. So I'm coming in at a 9, and honestly, I'm thinking between that 9 and 9.5. It's just, but I'm going to settle on a 9. I can only see it going up, because I have a blast playing this, and the fact that I'm not afraid to bring this out. Certain games I love, but I'm afraid to bring it out around people that haven't played it yet. I'm like, I won't get the same experience. This one you will. 1 or 2 turns into it, you're going to get the same experience as if they played 5 or 6 times.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay.
You know?
Yeah.
So I don't think
you can have the same fun.
You can, because you roll and you're going to bounce. Let's see where you're going to bounce to, and you just figure it out. I really love this game. It's a 9, but I only see it going up from there.
Well, it's also a 9 from me. I agree with Camilla. The 2-player is too few. Although for me, I'd be like, hey, can you handle running 2 sets of cards?
Oh, 6 cards.
Oh, that's interesting.
I would.
And
We're doing teams.
Except my teams never fight each other.
You probably could if you like bounce back and forth. One of yours, one of mine, one of yours, one of mine. You know, so yeah, you probably could
like
do that.
that.
Interesting.
That would
It's
be
a
fun to
variant.
try. But man, this game is just full of stories.
So
when you
good.
talk about this game the next day, you say, oh, remember when this happened? Remember when I bounced off your car right into a canyon wall and died? And all the different guns and all kinds of cool things. And it's not long.
No.
Because usually when a game is super thematic, like Nemesis or games like that, they also take forever. This is a good solid hour.
Yeah.
Yes, it could stretch longer. Yes, it could be faster, depending on how much you kill each other. But overall, I have a blast playing this.
I do too.
I agree.
So, like, I don't think it's for everyone. There's certainly people I'd be like, you should not play this. If you don't like player interaction at all, or crazy,
Or
nonsensical things happening.
There's gobs of luck in this. There really is.
Oh, yeah.
Par for the course. That's what you're getting into it for. Yeah. If you don't like that, you're not going to like it.
Right.
I just wish we just did. Well, we haven't posted it yet about games we wish were around when we were teenagers. Oh my word! Why would I play this all the time? But I still will because I can. So anyway, that's Thunder Road Vendetta. I'm Tom Bassel.
I'm Joey Evans.
I'm Camilla Cleghorn.
I'm Z Garcia.
Vendetta's a proper name because I have some against some of the people here about this game.
Okay.